Okay, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mayor Comrie. I'm about to call the meeting to order. We're just checking to make sure we have all of our councilors, I believe, and our CAO clerk. And we have our fire chief, Bob Whitman, our planner, John Jackson, and special guest that I'll introduce in just a second. But I think since everyone is here, we can call our meeting to order again. For those of you who are following on the agenda, we are at item 4. We had a short closed session prior to the dinner hour, at which we dealt with items 1, 2, and 3. So I would like to start this meeting as usual with the playing of our national anthem. Thank you. I would now like to read our Indigenous Land Acknowledgement Statement. The municipality of Whitestone recognizes all of Canada resides on traditional, unceded and/or treaty lands of the Indigenous people of Turtle Island. We recognize our municipality on the Robinson-Huron Treaty Territory is home to many past, present, and future Indigenous families. This acknowledgement of the land is a declaration of our commitment and collective responsibility to reconcile the past and to honor and value the culture, history, and relationships we have with one another. I noticed just since I made the original introductions that our treasurer, Pat Allen, and our planning assistant, Paula Macri, have also joined us this evening. So thank you and welcome everybody. And I believe there may be 1 or 2 members of the public on the call, and I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you as well. The first item, before we do that, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the part of the councilors? All right, then, hearing nothing, the record show that none was declared. Could I get a motion, a mover and seconder, please, to approve the agenda as circulated?
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Did I hear Councillor Gorham Matthews second?
Sure.
Okay. Any discussion? Any objection to the agenda? All right, hearing none, that's carried. We do have one matter arising from the closed session, item 3.1, and that is the minutes of the closed session for the council meeting on November 1st. Could I get a mover and seconder to approve those minutes, please?
I'll move, Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen, seconded by
Can second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Got Councillor Gorham Matthews. Is anyone opposed to approving those minutes? Okay, thank you. Those are carried. That brings us then to item 7, our presentations and delegations. And this evening, we're pleased to have with us Mayor Peter Hopkins, Mayor of the Township of McKellar. And he has a few words that he'd like to say to our council. And I think there's a picture or two maybe that will show up on the screen in the middle. But anyway, Peter, it's my pleasure to welcome you, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, George. Just on behalf of McKellar Council, thank you for having me tonight. And it's two purposes. One is to say thank you to your council for all the ways in which you collaborate and cooperate with McKellar. And then a special thank you that we'll get to later. But it should be known, I'll be less than 10 minutes, by the way, just so you know, because I try and be strict with our council as well. But it's often overlooked that the heads of council, we actually do talk with one another. We look at ways of sharing resources. We work together on projects that are mutually beneficial. And we help one another when asked or needed. Whitestone and McKellar have a very collaborative and supportive relationship, thanks to the leadership of your Mayor, George Comrie. Just a few examples of our special relationship. With connectivity, we've been working closely now for almost 2 years to improve connectivity in Whitestone and McKellar. And recently we received, I may be wrong in the number, but it's around 12 million, is it not, George? To bring in backbone to our communities. And that's a really good start. And George took the lead on this one, so I'm going to give him full credit for that. The nursing station, in 2016, I asked for a number of how many people from McKellar actually used it. And they didn't know at the hospital. So Jim Hanna finally figured it all out and said we had 180 or so. I said, well, we need to make a contribution because that's something that's a great service to our community. And so we did. And now we're even going beyond that, and we are supporting your expansion to the new center to the tune of $60,000 over 2 years. So we think this is going to be wonderful for our community as well as yours. We do a lot of things on roads, whether it's culverts or summer and winter maintenance programs, or share staff when needed, which has served us both very well. We work on area projects and share ideas and concerns and have been about the pool, but respected each other's decision moving forward. We've shared environmental issues and ideas on blue-green algae. And when the ministry took away our fish hatchery, we donated it to you, and I know it's being used well. We share our United Church Ministers, our dynamic snow riders, our McKellar Whitestone Lions, and share your Legion for our special events. And in staffing, we've had numerous staffing shared service agreements in the past, and you've been beyond the call of duty for my second thank you. In the last 2 years, McKellar, as you probably know, has been dealing with the fallout of COVID-19 protocols, along with a variety of unforeseen staffing issues. We reached out for your help and you responded in kind. So not only thank you to your council for cooperation, but I made a special presentation last Thursday to your CAO. There should be a great picture there. She didn't want to be on. I wanted to do a full video and a full speech for her, but I got vetoed anyway. So, but you shared Michelle with us for a long time. It was a very difficult time for us. And not only COVID-19, and we lost staff, but we were really having a morale problem trying to build it all back up. Michelle stepped in. She not only stepped in, she stepped up. And she took charge, bringing in an acting treasurer, which just kept us afloat, reorganized her staff and added an admin assistant. We managed to keep afloat and move numerous projects forward while dealing with a major oil spill, which she had experience on. To say thank you to Michelle is certainly not enough. We would like to make her an honorary member of McKellar, which we did. And we appreciate your excellent shared service, and we hope we continue to do so in the future. You're always welcome, McKellar. So thank you to your council. Thank you to your staff. We hope we can continue in this cooperative vein. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for those kind words, Peter. And I would simply respond on behalf of our council by saying that we in Whitestone, we believe that there are opportunities for us to work together on many things. We have relied on some of the staff in McKellar in the past. I think some of you know that the McKellar's Works Department was very much involved in the replacement of the Bunny Trail, a large multi-plate culvert that we replaced down by the Schwanager River on the Bunny Trail. And that's a job that we couldn't have done by ourselves. We could not have got a contractor to do that in a timely manner. We tried, and with the assistance of McKellar, McKellar staff, we were able to get that job done quickly and at lower cost than we would otherwise have been able to do. So there are opportunities for us to share resources and to work together. And I've appreciated the opportunity to work with some of our neighbors, and particularly McKellar, on some of the challenges that we've had. So it's a great relationship, and Peter, we're glad to work with you. Are there any other comments that councillors would, or either questions or comments that you have for Mayor Hopkins?
Mr. Mayor, one quick comment. I guess it's basically been said in a different way, but Route 124 highway is McKellar, and beyond that was Hagerman, and now the large Whitestone municipality. And we've been known to be a unit in a lot of ways as I grew up in these areas over the years. And I certainly appreciate the participation going both directions. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome, Joe.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I'll jump in just for a minute, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Michelle. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Hopkins, for your kind words. It was a pleasure, a strain at times to help out with McKellar, and it was a new way of looking at things. I appreciate being an honorary resident of McKellar. I hope you're not going to send me a tax bill. But I'm glad to see things are getting back on track at McKellar. You've had a rough go of it, and you do have some good staff in place now. So thank you again for the sweatshirt, and the Peter also gave me a book on the history of McKellar, which I've started reading, and it's very enjoyable. So thank you again.
Okay. If there's no one else, then I will I once again thank Peter for joining us, and we'll you're welcome to stay, of course, if you wish, but if
I'm going to leave, but thank you again.
Thanks for coming. We have one planning item this evening, so could I get a motion to move into committee of the whole, please?
I'll make the
move,
motion.
Councillor Woods.
Councillor Lamb.
Okay, I think I heard Councillor Woods, am I right?
Yep.
Councillor Woods moved, and who seconded?
I'll second this, Councillor Lamb.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Lamb. Good. All right, so we are at 6:48 p.m. Any objection to moving in camera? Not moving in camera, I'm sorry, moving into committee of the whole. All right. Thank you. We're in committee of the whole. That allows us to consider this one item, which is a consent application to divide property from the Ewans on Oshkosh Lake in Parker Bay. And I will ask our planner, John Jackson. John, if you wouldn't mind just introducing this for us, and we'll take questions.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. John Ewing and his wife Inga have owned a cottage property at this South Basin Bay of Oshkosh for well over half a century and have enjoyed it considerably. They fortuitously have enough land to be able to split the property in two to be able to qualify to create one new lot. One of their rationales is the costs of actually maintaining the property have dictated that they unfortunately need to proceed with a land division. And as I say, they meet the planning instruments in terms of the minimum lot size, area, and frontage. It's clean frontage. It's accessed off Nona Lane, off Edgewood Road. We circulated to the association. They got back to us and asked that we confirm, and we were able to, that it meets the standards for new lot creation on Oshkosh. So it's, in my estimation, Council, fairly straightforward application. Unless there's questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them, but I don't see any planning red flags on this one.
All right, thank you, John. Are there questions from councillors?
Yeah, Councillor Lamb.
Go ahead, please, Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, I certainly have no problem with this application, and we'll be supporting it. But I'm just looking at the motion that I received this afternoon, and just for my clarification, I won't go through the whole motion, but number 2 in the motion says payment of the required fee in lieu of a parkland dedication fee. So what is that? Can you, John, can you explain that to me and us?
Sure. Through your worship, the municipality on a consent is entitled to 5% park land, or alternatively, they can accept a payment equivalent to a cash value of that 5%. Typically, where there is a consent, we've taken the cash value of the parkland dedication in lieu of the land dedication. And so what happens is that the municipality asks the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation to tell us what the valuation is, and we take 5% we set a fee at 5% of the assessed value of that property, which happens to be the raw land value. So it's actually discounted any improvements. So if there is a dwelling on the property, the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation can tell us what the value of the land is from an assessment point of view, and that fee is based on 5% of that. So, for example, if the property is $300,000 and the dwelling is estimated to be $100,000, the MPAC confirms the value of the land at $200,000, and we require a condition of a fee equivalent to that 5% of the assessed value times 200,000 would be a $10,000 fee to the municipality's parkland budget. And it's required that that land be paid out to any expenses related to parkland. So it could be the community center, it could be docking facilities, access facilities, etc. But it's got to show up in the recreational side of the expense formula. So it's been done for years, and I think we've generally done well with a parkland dedication. It's a big number for most people, but it's one we're entitled to, and we're not going to leave that money on the table. Thank you.
Yeah,
So-
I guess it was just the wording of it, that it's, payment of a required fee in lieu of parkland dedication. Why wouldn't it
No.
just say payment of parkland dedication fee? Like why? Maybe it's the English.
Sorry. I understand what Councillor Lamb is tripping over here. The word fee appears twice, and it shouldn't. It's payment of the required fee in lieu of a parkland dedication.
Yes,
Oh,
correct.
And in the past, the word fee at the end should not be there. In the past, what we have said is payment of the required parkland dedication fee. That's all that's what we're used to seeing.
Oh,
But,
okay, sorry.
but the word fee appeared twice at the end. So
Okay,
that's,
I don't have that
Yeah.
resolution.
it's
but
not that
yeah,
there's
thank
some
you.
other kind of fee that we're doing
Yeah.
instead of a parkland dedication fee.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
parkland
that's my
dedication fee.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point, that I thought there was some new fee that's replacing the parkland dedication fee, and that's thereby my question. So the last word should come off that or that motion, right? Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just one on number one on the recommendations, the inclusion of the required registered right of way. Do we not normally also state on that there's I guess not an exemption, but protection to municipality against the liability and such on that road? Is that not normally part of that clause? I forget the wording we used.
We sometimes, if I may, through your worship, we sometimes offer up the requirement that a condition be placed on the property for a new right of way, indicating that the access is confirmed to be a private road access that has no responsibility to the municipality. Here, the Nona Road is a long-standing established right of way that from its sort of beginning at Edgewood Road to its very terminus has been a private road. So that kind of extra warning step we didn't think was warranted in this case. But you're quite observant and correct in that if we were creating a new right of way, we would often register an agreement that acknowledged that the municipality has no responsibility for any liability or maintenance on these types of roads.
John, is this portion of a private road presently used past these properties?
Oh, yes.
Okay, that's okay. I didn't realize that. I was thinking of it being an extension to the private portions there. So, all
No,
right.
it's been a long-standing right of way.
Yeah.
Yeah, the part that they're proposing to sever is actually before you get to the part that they that their existing cottage is on. On the,
Oh,
on
okay, I
the
thought it
road.
was
It's
preceding
before
it.
you
Thank
get to it on the road is what I mean. Okay,
Yeah.
does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions or comments on this application?
Yeah, hi, Mr. Mayor. It's Scott Nash. I guess when the other councilors are done, if you give me the opportunity to ask one or two questions, I would appreciate it.
Go ahead, Scott. I think you're
Yes,
next.
it is. Thank you. I guess I had two quick questions for it, and I think maybe a couple of them were partially answered there already. So I guess the two questions I'd have, one of the other councilors there had spoken about the parkland dedication fee. And I guess I'd wonder why in the wording it wouldn't say payment of parkland dedication fees as per bylaw 40/2020, which states out that it's either 5% for residential or 2% for commercial. I think that would just give a better definition of exactly what's expected by people. And I guess I'd ask that somebody answer why it wouldn't be written like that. And the second question I'd have would be in regards to the private road Norma Lane. I know existing cottagers use it before and after this severance, and has the owner of the private road, whoever might own it before this, given authorization for the use of this road by a new lot? And wouldn't that be something that should be covered in a 5126 agreement on title that shows that the proper right-of-ways are there, and there is approval from the landowners before it? And I guess the third part to that 5126, I guess I'd just ask, if you're approving a new lot today, again, why do you enforce some conditions on some lot severances that there's 5126 for storm water erosion or septic systems, but you don't do it on all lots, and you don't do it on all properties that are being severed? Like, I see there's no requirement here for a 5126 to say that you should follow the new design guidelines for septic systems as per the municipal standards or stormwater runoff, but on other lots, you do enforce having to have a 5126 in regards to mundane items like that. So I guess if somebody can answer those three questions for me, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
John, you want to?
Sure, thank you, your worship. The parkland dedication question probably relates to the fact that fees change. So by the time that this particular transaction may face that music, there could be a revised bylaw, and usually Jan 1 or January, there's a 2022 exercise that would establish perhaps a new rate. So it'll be subject to whatever the legislation that the municipality has in effect for that particular time will determine. So there's a bit of dynamics to it. It's not rocket science. I mean, I've already indicated to the Ewings that this is going to be a big number. You know, prepare to swallow the fact that this is an entitlement in the municipality. So they're quite aware that whatever it is, they'll have to face that particular fee payment. In terms of the requirement for the extra condition for precautions, if you like, with respect to the road, those tend to be more important for relevant new rights of way that never existed in the past, so that the expectation is very clear to new property purchasers what the limitations are going to be. In the case of Nona Lane, this is a 3/4 of a century-year-old access that's not changing much. With respect to the requirement for ensuring that the servant tenement and the dominant tenements are included in the transaction. That's a condition of the approval. So that's part of the application, in which case the owner is quite aware that they have the responsibility to include a transfer of those access entitlements as part of the transaction. So all those assurances are there. So I don't believe there's any concerns respecting those technicalities that Scott's alluded to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I do, just as a follow-up there, Mr. Mayor, what about the 5126 in regards to septic or stormwater? And just as a quick response back, the bylaw for fees wasn't updated from 2013 until 2020. So I don't think it's something that really gets updated every January. There was just one done, Bylaw 40 2020. And I know the one in 2013 was 5% too. And I'm sure if somebody was to be approved today, it would be based on the current fee bylaw and not someone that would be proposed in the future. It would be based on when their application was approved. And in regards to the access over private property, if somebody is driving over private property to get to a new property, I assume that's something that the municipality has already looked into and confirmed that the owners of the private property before this lot have agreed that they would grant access to a new lot, because it's that access point before the new lot that would have the right to say, yes, we want more vehicles passing over our property or not. Again, I don't disagree with creating a lot or anything. I just want to make sure that everybody is treated the same. And that's why I'm asking these questions. Thank you. I won't ask any more, but if somebody can give a bit more detail to those questions would be great and appreciated. Thank you.
All right, well, maybe just to so that we don't spend a lot too much time on this, I will ask our CAO clerk to note to see if we can come up, as far as the parkland dedication fee is concerned, to come up with a standard wording that we use in all of these, so that we don't have people concerned about that in future. There's nothing that's really changed here, and the amount is as set out in the bylaw, so there's a standard wording that could be used. I don't have an answer to the other concern, other than to say that our planner looks at the merits of each situation involving lot creation and decides what are the things that we should note. I don't know, John, if you have anything that you want to add to your previous comments about this, fine, but
I don't want to repeat myself, Your Worship, but the access will be confirmed by the solicitors involved, both for the applicants and any purchaser. And the concern over septic installation, if it is a concern, can be accommodated during the site plan process if that's applied. So I don't have any concerns with respect to that issue that Scott's mentioned as well. So I think that in my opinion, the issues are all in fact encompassed or bundled into our processes and procedures for lot development. Thank you.
okay, thank you. If there are no other questions, is there anything else? If not, what I'll ask for is a motion to reconvene into open session, please, and then we'll deal with the motion relating to this item. Can I get a mover, please, and a seconder?
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by,
I'll second Councillor McEwen.
thank you. That this meeting be reconvened to an open session at 7:07 p.m. Any objection? Okay, hearing none, that's carried. And now we have the motion arising from the committee of the whole. I will read it to you. That the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby approve the proposed consent to create one new waterfront lot as applied for by John and Inga Ewan in application number B 39/2021, subject to the following conditions. 1, the inclusion of the required registered right-of-way to the newly created lot. 2, payment of the required fee in lieu of a parkland dedication. 3, 911 addressing being obtained from, it should say from the municipality of Whitestone. And 4, payment of all applicable planning fees. I got a mover and seconder for this motion, please.
I'll move, Council McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen, seconded by
I'll second.
Councillor Gorham Matthews. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, I will ask our clerk to call the roll for the vote, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me, pardon me. Councillor Gorham Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes,
Thank you. That motion is carried.
okay, thank you. All right, that brings us then to our consent agenda. And our consent agenda consists of minutes from the regular council meeting of November 1st, 2021, and the unfinished business that is listed on page 4 of your agenda. Motion is, whereas the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of those items, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby receive and or approve the items contained in the consent agenda dated November 15th, 2021. Can I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move it, Counselor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by.
I'll second
I'll
Councillor
second.
Woods.
Okay, thank you. I got Councillor Woods first, I think. Any discussion? Is there any opposition to this motion? Okay, hearing none, I will declare it carried. And I believe there are no motions arising from the consent agenda. Which brings us to accounts payable. Could I get a mover and seconder, please, that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone approve accounts payable in the amount of $180,627.38 and payroll in the amount of $37,639.50 for payment.
I'll move, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods, seconded by.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Gorham Matthews. Are there any questions or comments concerning any of the payables?
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Go
Councillor Woods.
ahead, Councillor Woods.
Two quick ones. I'm sure they'll be quick. Page 26 of 86. It would be payment number 36269 Harris Lake Marina. This is just a quick question. The
Yes.
garbage disposal. Is it just like household garbage that we take up there, or
Is there like bulk waste that goes up there? Or- Because I don't know. I just out of curiosity asking the question, to be honest with you.
Madam CAO, do you want to answer or?
Yes, I can answer that. There is a long-standing unwritten agreement, which we're going to resolve for next year, that the folks at Harris Lake Marina accept the household garbage for, I believe, it's either 10 or 11 cottagers in the area who don't have another option. And the dollar amount increases each year. Way back in 2004, it started at, I think it was about $400 if I recall the resolution. And it's now at, I don't have the accounts book in front of me. It's either 26 or 25 or 2,600 this year. And they simply bill us about this time of year. There was a payment earlier in the year for last year, which didn't get paid. There was some sort of a mix up as to where the actual invoice ended up. But that's what that dollar amount is for. And we do require some clarity around the agreement and an understanding of, what the costs are associated with managing waste for the cottages in that area, but that's what it's for.
Okay.
And if I may, Madam Clerk, would it be fair to say that they do not bring the garbage that they collect to our landfill sites, they're disposing of it at some other site of it? Is that your understanding?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is that they have their own landfill site up there. I don't have the details of whether it's a registered landfill, but that's been the protocol for many years with the municipality.
Okay, thank you. Did you have more items,
Sure.
Councillor Woods?
Just one more quick one, Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Go ahead.
It's page 30 of 86. Payment number 247, Fad Architects, $1,652.63. Is that for a design of the new office renovation? I was just wondering if we're getting an update on that anytime soon, or?
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I apologize. When I left the office after the closed session meeting to come to another location, I neglected to bring the accounts book with me. So I will look into that. There's two projects that is working on for us right now. One is the municipal office, which is the tender closes tomorrow, I believe. So there'll be a report to council December 13th. And one is the nursing station. So I will double check what that invoice is for, and I will let council know.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments on the payables?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lamb.
Go ahead.
I don't have the page, but it's number 36283. It's a payment of $5,254.50 to a legal firm, Weir Folds. I was just that legal firm rings a bell for some reason, but I'm not exactly sure what. Is that associated with a tax sale or a file, or what's that payment to do with?
Madam CAO, do you want to answer?
Yes, again, as I don't have the accounts book in front of me, I can't be precise with an answer. So if you would allow me, I will follow up tomorrow with council on an answer for you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
All right, are there any others? If not, are you ready for the question then? Can I ask the clerk to call the roll, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gore Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes,
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
Okay, thank you. Right, that, I believe, brings us to our bylaws, and we have a bylaw to authorize temporary borrowing from the Ontario Infrastructure Lending Corporation. Infrastructure and Lands Corporation, I'm sorry. So I'll read it to you and get a mover and seconder, and then if you have questions, I believe our treasurer is still here and she can talk about a report or answer questions if you wish. The motion I'm looking for is that bylaw 50-2021 being a bylaw to authorize the submission of an application to Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation for the financing of certain ongoing capital works of the corporation of the municipality of Whitestone, to authorize the temporary borrowing from OILC to meet expenditures in connection with such capital works, and to authorize long-term borrowing for such capital works through the issue of debentures to OILC, be read a first and second time this 15th day of November 2021, and further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed this 15th day of November 2021, and numbered bylaw 50-2021. Who would like to move that?
I'll move, Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen, seconded by?
I'll second.
Councillor Gorman Matthews, thank you. All right, questions or discussion? Trust everybody understands what it is we're doing here.
I do.
Okay, if there are no questions or comments, then I will ask our CIO clerk to call the roll, please.
Thank you. Councillor Gorman Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
yes,
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried.
Okay, thank you. Number 13, staff reports. We have a staff report regarding a request to use municipal lands adjacent to Chimo Cove Road for a parking area. Could I get a mover and seconder, please, that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone receive report PW-2021-06, Chimo Cove Road proposed parking area on municipal lands for information, and that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone approves the construction of the requested parking area by the Chimo Cove Road Association, subject to the association entering into an encroachment agreement with the municipality. Is there a mover and seconder?
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Seconded by?
I'll second.
Councillor Woods.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. Discussion.
Yeah, Councillor Lamb. In reading this material, I really don't have a problem. I can't remember us ever doing this before, but I may be wrong. I guess my only concern is they enter into an encroachment agreement. They build a parking lot for 3 people on their road, but it's public land. So So what happens if someone else just says, I'm gonna park there? And parks their car, their trailer or something like that? Like, what entitlement does the public have to this land once there's an encroachment agreement, I guess is my question. Or do they have any right to it after this is done?
Good question. Do you have an answer, CAO? Or I see that our manager of public works has joined the call. I don't know, David, if you know the answer. Either one of you?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Mayor. That's a very good question that's been brought up. I have not had much experience with this myself, but we'll be looking for just to provide the Chimo Cove residents the use of the area as they would maintain, ensure, well, they would build it, maintain it, and ensure the area. So we'd give them the use of it. Now, the question would be, who would be responsible for enforcing it? Well, we wouldn't really have anything to start with. If it did become a problem, we could look at producing permits. But that's a whole other, I don't know if we'll get into that, being that it is down Chimo Road, a private road. Doesn't have much visibility from the main road. But we could revisit that should that arise. Currently, there's a parking area that's historically been used by different residents close by, and that's on Lorimer Lake Road, just adjacent to Beach Road, which provides access for people on Shawanaga, water access, let's say, or seasonal access. So I don't know how much people would wander up to the Chimo Cove and use that. I don't believe it'll be an issue, but if it is, we could revisit that.
I would thank you, David. I would just comment that the report says that there are 9 members of this association, and that the 9 members represent everyone who is actually, it says that they are 100% of the cottages on Chimo Cove. So I interpreted that to mean that it was for the exclusive use of those 9 cottages, since they're going to pay to put it to do whatever to make this ready, and that they would therefore assume that nobody else, it's not one other people other than those 9 cottage owners are not going to use it. That was my assumption in reading the report. Would you say that's correct?
That is correct. That's a correct interpretation.
Okay, are there other questions or comments about this?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a comment. I guess my understanding of an encroachment permit is, or my thoughts on it, was a little different than this type of usage. Encroachment permits allow you to work across the properties, government-owned properties and such. I don't believe it gives sort of an ownership characteristic, which I guess this really doesn't. If someone else, and this is in the middle of nowhere, it basically only serves Chimo Cove by the looks of it. But if someone else needed a place to park, access to these few people, I guess they would have to approach the municipality for maybe an extension of that with their own little encroachment permit. So maybe there is a way around it if they needed more space in the future.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Who is this?
It's a manager of public works again.
Oh, David, sorry. I apologize. I didn't recognize. You go ahead.
This property is adjacent to the Beach Road parking area, which was enlarged this summer. And this property does abut to adjoin that area. So there is more space in the area should we need it for additional parking. There is additional, it may take some effort to find the exact best location, but there is additional area for parking should that arise in the future. They wouldn't necessarily have to go in Chimo Cove to get it.
So a question that occurs to me is, do we have a sense of, I'm prompted to ask this by your by the knowledge that what you just mentioned, that in fact our works department had done some expansion of essentially the boat launch, which is on Beach Road. Do we have any sense of how many people are relying on, say, public access to get to Shawanaga Lake? Because I mean, I don't have a sense of that. I know there are lots of folks who have access to their properties off Shawanaga Lake Road, for example, but what about, I mean, are there a certain number of people who have water access properties and therefore rely on essentially a public landing? And if so, do we know what the anticipated capacity of that landing for those people and for the public who want to access the lake would be?
Mr. Mayor, I have one comment I could make. I have a friend who utilizes that area pretty exclusively. And I believe what municipality has done to try to provide more space, more parking. A lot of the parking gets done along this beach road, I guess it's called, or whatever, goes down to the landing. And then excess also parks across Lumber Lake Road, as was mentioned earlier. But it seems like we've accommodated them, as I would feel this friend of mine says, pretty well to this point. The Block A, incidentally, that this proposed parking lot will be on, I think this rings out really loud and clear that we should not be selling blocks off very randomly or very easily or without a lot of thought, because of future needs of folks who needed water access and lake access and all that kind of thing. And that's what this is on, is a Block A. We seem to have lost several of them around the area over the years. And I've totally disagreed with the giving up Block A's for various reasons, whether it be parkland or for whatever uses that might be used for. So I think we're making pretty good use of this park Block A for the proposed parking lot.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, back, Councillor Lamb again. I guess thinking out loud here, should we be uncomfortable at all? I guess the question that's going through my mind is, can we take municipally owned lands like this that are technically open to the public and enter into an agreement with a group of ratepayers for exclusive use of that land? That's the key question, right? Are we able to do that? And if so, how do we do that? Is it an encroachment agreement? Is it just a legal agreement? Like, what is it? Like, have we done the research on this? When David sort of says, well, I'll have to look at that when it comes up, or if it comes up, but I feel a little uncomfortable with that because it may come up, as more and more people are up and have snowmobile trailers, and boat trailers and all kinds of stuff, and they see a parking area and say, well, it's public land, I'll go park there. I just see potentially a problem. Maybe I haven't been down to see the area, so I may be out to lunch here, but I'm just a little cautious. I'm not against this, but we having never done it before that I know of. Should we seek any kind of opinion on this thing before we just sort of jump into it? I guess that's a question of mine. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I believe that's a very good point, and I would like the opportunity to gather information from surrounding municipalities on what information they have on similar situations, and maybe even getting some outside information from maybe a professional. I'm not sure who that would be at this point, but at least gather information and come back to council with what our neighbors are doing, what other municipalities are doing, and their experience with such.
What about a
such
legal opinion?
Yes, absolutely. I believe that would be our last. I think we should talk to. I will talk to the other municipalities if I could first, and then get run that by our legal people.
And we could defer this motion then?
Well,
for-
we could, I would give our CAO an opportunity in case she has some thoughts as to what the process should be, but it's sort of sounding as if maybe we might want to get a little bit more information about the options. I guess, an encroachment agreement, my interpretation of it, of course, is that we can cancel it, right? It's not a permanent. It's not encumbering the lands in perpetuity by any means, but it is. It is. I suppose encumbering it in the sense that they're going to clear more area for parking, and so some of it is, that may involve, cutting down some trees, grading it out, doing various things like that. That if 10 years ago we decided it wasn't the right thing to do or whatever, then there would still be some residual effect of this. But yeah, it's. Is there any comment from our CAO? Do you have any advice on this matter, or?
Thank you,
should we
Mr.
defer
Mayor.
it?
Yeah, it was lots of good questions and some uncertainty here. So I think it's a good idea to defer, and our Public Works Manager will seek input, and we'll seek a legal opinion as well, just so the council can be comfortable with the next steps. And we'll let the folks at Chima Cove know that it's under consideration and that there'll be more discussion at the December council meeting. So I think it's a good idea to defer and just get some more information on this.
Okay, the mover and seconder, are you agreeable to deferring this motion?
I believe I seconded. I'm fine with deferring.
I think I
Councillor
made
Lamb?
both. Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Is anyone opposed to deferring it for further information? Okay, hearing no one. Just making a note here. We will defer that one. Right. The next staff report, 13.2, is our quarterly building department update. But again, a mover and seconder, please, that the Council of Municipality of Whitestone receive report building-2021-05, which is the building department update for July 1st to September 30th, 2021, as well as year to date for information.
I'll make
I'll
that
move,
motion.
Councillor Woods.
Okay, I got Councillor Gorman Matthews as the mover and Councillor Woods as the seconder. Is there are there any comments or questions on this report?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
ahead.
Councillor Lamb, again, a good report. Certainly our building activity is up this year, which I guess is good. The only comment I would make, and I've made this comment before in this report, is I wonder if the report can also give the lots or the addresses or whatever of the building activity. It's public knowledge. Obviously, people get building permits, and the building permits are posted on their property. So I can remember in the past that was part of any building department report was where all the building activity was, because certainly as I, for instance, go around the community and see buildings, I have no idea whether people have a building permit or not. But it would sure help if I knew where the building activities were, say in my neighborhood, or building permits, and where they're not. So I would think we keep track of them. I don't think there would be a problem from a secretive kind of standpoint or whatever. So can I request that? I know I've requested it in the past. Can we get a report on this year's building activity and where the building permits, where they're located? Is that a reasonable request? Thank you.
Madam CAO, I can't recall ever seeing this information before, but
I would suggest that it, with our acting CBO working only 3 days a week, might be a bit of a stretch to pull all this together. I know our previous CBO was going to attempt it, and then just found himself way too busy to create that spreadsheet. I would suggest that it might be some good information for our new CBO to start. We are actually going to redesign the report as well, just a little bit less editorial and more numbers and charts for comparison. So definitely something to consider if council is agreeable with our new CBO when that person starts and presents reports to council.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, just a comment further on that. I agree with Councilor Lamb. I've asked previous CBOs a couple times or several times over my terms if a certain place has a permit, and just so happened that in one or two occasions there wasn't one there. And it is public knowledge, so to put it out as public knowledge, and if people realize that they're possibly going to be looked at, then maybe they will be going for permits. Maybe a bit of a plus on that side. And then maybe we can catch up with some if people observe that, gee, I don't think there's a permit there, and just report it. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions on this report? If not, is there any objection to approving it? Approving the motion to receive it? Okay, thank you. It is received. Next, we have a report on a public tender for property on on Tehinka Road and East Town Line Road. So I'm looking for a mover and seconder for the following: that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby receive report admin-2021-15. It's entitled "The Public Tender for Properties Owned by the Municipality of Whitestone, Tender 2021-08, Municipal Surplus Land on Tehinka Road." And there's an assessment roll number for that, and under 2021-09, municipal surplus land on East Town Line Road. And there's an assessment roll for that one, roll number for that one. And that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby accept the offer of $120,000 plus HST for the property identified as assessment roll number 49-39-010-005-03001 from Robert and Candace Black pursuant to the terms and conditions of the office to purchase. And that is the property that's on Tehinka Road. And that the necessary bylaw be executed for the agreement of purchase and sale, and that the mayor and the CAO clerk be authorized to execute all necessary and related documents. Could someone move that, please?
I'll move that,
I'll move.
Councilor McEwen.
Yeah, I heard Councillor McEwen moved, Councillor Gorham Matthews second.
Sure.
Discussion. Any comments or questions on this one?
Yeah, I guess it, Councillor Lamb, if at first you don't succeed, try again. This is the second time this property's been up for sale, and I'm glad that the Blacks are going to buy it. So, and it will help the municipality in terms of getting in the 120,000. So good news on all fronts. Thank you.
Okay. Other comments or questions? All right. Be ready for the question. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please, for this one. This is a sale of municipal property.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gorham Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
and Mayor Conway.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried.
Okay, thank you. That brings us then to some business matters, and the first three of them are just discussion matters. So there aren't any specific motions yet, but we could certainly make some. 14.1 was the question being raised about a return to in-person council meetings. And I guess the question is, what does council think about this? Well, anyway, I will repeat a comment that I made previously regarding our facilities, but other than that, I'll let other councilors speak to it first.
Councillor Lamb.
Go ahead, Councillor Lamb. You're the one who raised
Yeah.
this item at the last meeting. I
Yeah,
think. Go ahead.
I raised it 2 or 3 weeks ago, and 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have commented different than I would today. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think we were all hoping that we could kind of, stay at 400 cases in Ontario a day or so. But it over the ensuing period, we seem to be clicking up into the 600s, and we seem to be getting cautionary notes about how that could, at a worst case scenario, grow to 2,000 or so, although the hospitalizations, I guess, will be down. Hopefully we won't reach a level like that, but I guess I just feel uncomfortable with going back to live council meetings right now. So I don't know whether it's a month-to-month thing, or I see the Perry Sound Council put off meetings in public until the spring. I don't know whether that means March or whatever, but I think that's what we're heading to here, in my opinion, is we review this, early in the new year and see what the situation is at that time. But I don't think right now, in my mind, is the time to open this up to the public. So even though I would love to, and I think it technically probably could be done with social spacing or whatever, I just don't think it's the right time. Okay, thank you.
Other comments? Thank you. Councillor Gorham
Farmer?
Matthews.
Yeah, my only suggestion was if people were pushing towards going back to in-person meetings, was that we implement rapid testing to anyone going to attend a meeting. The last few weeks have definitely shown that the breakthrough cases are indicative that just being double vaccinated isn't a guarantee of whether or not you have COVID or not. So if we were to want to pursue this, and I'm fine putting it off, but I was going to say, if we were to go ahead, the rapid testing only takes about 15 minutes, and we could, anybody that wants to attend a meeting could definitely take one before each meeting, and then we know for sure that we're in a safe environment.
Okay, are there other, Councillor McEwen?
Yeah, I have to concur with Councillor Lamb, and some of the stats that I've seen lately from our unit as well as further north, Sudbury being one. Sudbury has been hit really hard again, hardest that they've actually been hit in a long time or ever. We happen to have, I think it's 45 now in the North Bay Prairie Sound area. That's indicative of a couple of large spots, I guess, in the North Bay area, Nipissing. But I think the potential is still there. And I guess as Prairie Sound is done, I don't know if we have to wait till spring, but as Councillor Lamb mentioned, reassess it in the new year.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in? Councillor Woods or?
Yeah, I could say something, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I think it'd be a good idea. We wait it out and see what happens, just to be on the safe side. But I think Councillor Gorham Matthews brought up a great point, that when we do decide to open things back up, we should institute rapid tests for people that want to attend council meetings. Like she says, I know the breakthrough cases, and it doesn't really matter if you're double vaccinated or not. Doesn't mean that you can't get COVID or pass COVID along to somebody else. So I think the rapid test would be something that we should be looking into for sure.
Okay, thank you. I was going to comment about a couple of things. We are actually perhaps not in as bad shape in West Prairie Sound as others around us. The cases that we have in our health unit are both, they're the large number. I mean, we were running in the consistently for a long time under 10 cases, but we have had very recently 2 outbreaks in seniors residence / nursing homes, both in North Bay. So it's not Perry Sound, not West Perry Sound, it's not town of Perry Sound, but and I think those situations have shown us what a couple of people have already commented, which is that you can still have transmission, and you can still have an outbreak amongst vaccinated people. My own thought about this was that really what we want to do is we want to, when we do get to the point where we say, let's go back to having face-to-face meetings and I'm not sure if it's a wise thing to do at this point. I share the reservation of others, but if the council thought we wanted to do it, then I would do it. McKellar, for example, has gone back to face-to-face meetings. What they do, they ask people to be double vaccinated. I don't think they're doing rapid testing. Too bad we could have asked Peter when he was here, but I believe they require people to be double vaccinated to show their proof of vaccination to get in. And as some of you know, we're rapidly approaching the triple vaccination. Being fully vaccinated is going to soon mean 3 shots for at least some people. But in any case, what I thought the target was, once we did decide we wanted to go back, was that we would accommodate both people who are, and when I say people, I mean both councillors and guests who are and members of the public, of course, who are there physically and who are there remotely. And as I have mentioned before, the problem that I see with Part B, which is having remote participation alongside the physical participation in the community center, is that we don't have very good internet access there. And I'm really hoping that situation is going to get resolved sooner rather than later. We're not, if we have to wait for the Infrastructure Ontario project to build the backbone, we're talking about 2025 or 2024. It's a long way away. But I'm hoping that we'll have an interim solution in the next month or so that in fact, I thought we'd have had it by now, but I believe it's coming, that will allow us to have sufficient bandwidth, maybe not as good as we'll ultimately have, but at least enough to be able to say, fine, it doesn't matter where you are, you can participate in the meeting. It can be seen and heard and see and hear. So that's the, I guess what I'm hearing as a response is that there isn't a move to jump to this. I would say to you that I know that we have some members in our community who are, maybe all members in our community, who are tired of being sort of cooped up and are trying to get back to normal. We have resumed some activities. Like, for example, WalkFit is going on in the community center. There will probably be some other activities that will start that will be done very carefully and with appropriate screening and physical distancing and masking and all of those things still in place as time goes on, in compliance, of course, with provincial guidelines. But because there are people who are anxious to try and get back to more normal things. I was even considering the question, I meant to bring this up under this item, was the possibility of even having a New Year's Day levy again. Because there might be some people who would say, gee, it's an opportunity to get out, and as long as you do it in a safe way, we might be okay. But anyway, that's it sounds like there's not a move to rush into this. So if that's the consensus, I think we can maintain the status quo more or less and carry on. Are there any further comments about this one that you want to make? Have I captured the mood of the council correctly, that we leave this till the new year? Again, sorry, I can see a couple of faces, but and thumbs up and so on. All right, thank you. I suppose kind of along the same lines, there was is item 14.2. As you know, we awarded the order, or agreed to award the Order of Municipality of Whitestone this year, and the question was, when would we present it? And while we're on that subject, I mean, we're not, as you, I'm sure you realize, we did not organize a volunteer, volunteer banquets and celebration and so on this year, same as last year. So we do have awards to present. We also have a couple of folks who've reached the mandatory age where they are required, I guess, to retire from the fire department, and we have presentations of long service for them, and we have some other things to do. I guess one possibility might be to do a to try to do that, say at a New Year's levy or sometime around there for a small presentation. But anyway, I'm wondering if there are some thoughts on the part of council as to what you think we should do about that. By the way, if our CAO has any comments on any of these items, I would appreciate if you would jump in, because I know I certainly rely on you to sort of keep track of what the current rules are around these things.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The item with regard to the Order of Whitestone presentation was something put on the agenda, and I was envisioning something similar to what we did for the Senior of the Year, which was by invitation only. Of course, at that time we were in the Dundome, and I think we're past having an activity in the Dundome at this point. But there are, I'd asked the staff member to check the rules and regulations about indoor events, and I just wasn't able to get the information by the end of the day. I think we're still at 25, but I could be wrong. You know, I need to double check the legislation. I think it would be nice to make sure that the folks that were honored this year could be honored somehow in person. And I also agree the idea was that I see Chief Whitman's here. He may want to jump in. Certainly there's a couple of folks from the fire department that should be honored as well. And if that can be done in person, I know it's a little bit more meaningful. So that was my thought, to arrange for a small, by invitation only, presentation event. Few speeches, light refreshments, and try to do it before the weather gets too bad, because we're conscious of folks driving from Perry Sound, which is where the Order of Whitestone folks live, and making sure that they receive their plaque, and they meet with council in person. So that was my thought, to see if council had an appetite for something like that we could perhaps go back and start organizing, and give council some updates on what we think, and when the presentation might be, and what it might look like.
So are there any comments or suggestions about this item?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I personally think that a personal, even if it's a small gathering, invitation, limited number of people, I think it would be a worthwhile situation, especially for some of our volunteers who are outstanding in the fire department rescue unit, and then certainly the Order of Whitestone. I'm not sure what the overall list of recipients would be here. If we could put 100 people, say, in the community center safely, I'm not sure what that number is. 100 might be high. then maybe we could consider doing something in the community center for these folks.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, again, this is a difficult situation. I think the number, as far as I know, is still 25 indoors. So you certainly couldn't put 100 people in the community hall, as far as I know, anyway. So if you're going to do it by invitation, and that may be the way, yeah, probably is the only way you could go. You might have to do it in 2 or 3 clumps, sort of, you know, do the Order of Whitestone presentation at 1, and maybe the fire department celebration at 2 or something, or 2:30, and you know, sort of piggyback them on one another, so as to get around not get around, but live within the 25 rule, if that's what it is. Or we wait it out until the 25 goes up, but of course we don't know the answer to that, right? When it might be 50 or 100 or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know that there's a real good answer here. I know when we did the Senior of the Year, you know, it was 6 or 8 months after Kath was chosen, and certainly I think Murray was like a good 1.5 years. So I'm not suggesting we wait that long, but again, maybe reviewing it in the new year. I don't know. But if we're going to do it, I think we have to do it in 2 stages or something. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, it's CAO here. I just did a quick check online from what I can see, the reg still indicates 25 indoor, and then there's some requirements, of course, for double vax. So it actually makes sense to have 2 ceremonies back to back, because they are individual and they're special for the individual needs of the folks getting honored.
Okay, all right, well, why don't we take this under consideration and see if we can organize something before too long, rather than let it go until, you know, say the middle of next year or something. If there's nothing else on this one, item 14.3, I believe is only here just to confirm the CAO's proposal to reschedule this meeting. You will recall we were going to have it earlier, but it's a presentation. It's a public meeting, but it would be a presentation by RJ Burnside on the asset management plan. And tentatively, it is scheduled for December 6th, which is a Monday. I'm right when I say it's Monday, right? Yeah. From 2 to 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon. So it's not a regular council meeting, but it's that's the proposal. Did you want to say anything more about this? Either Michelle or our treasurer, Pat Allen?
Well, I'll jump in. I mean, Pat can speak to us, as she's been extremely involved in the asset management plan, of course. Yes, we are putting the final touches on it. I've almost finished my detailed review, and I've made some suggestions to the consultants, but generally the document is written and it's ready to be presented. However, the gentleman presenting is going to be on vacation, which is why it had to get moved to December 6th. We think probably an hour or a little bit less in terms of a presentation. And council will have this in their hands well before the meeting, because it's a long document with some complicated financial tables. and then certainly time for questions and answers. So if council is agreeable, and I can say that I had reached out to Councillor Gore Matthews to see if, in terms of her client scheduling, she could make a meeting in the afternoon, and she was agreeable. I assume you still are. So the time would be 2 to 3:30 p.m.
Anyone have any comments or on that proposal?
So, Mr. Mayor, that would be December the 6th, is
Yeah.
that correct?
Monday, December 6th. 2:30 or 2 o'clock to 3:30 p.m. So an hour and a half in the afternoon.
That would be fine for me.
Okay, by me.
Anyone not okay with that? All right. Let's make it so. Item 14.4. This is a request that we received from the municipality of Seguin, or the township of Seguin, I guess it is actually. Could I get a mover and seconder for the following, please? Whereas the municipality of Whitestone has received correspondence from Seguin Township on November 4th, 2021, advising the township's intention to seek a minister's zoning order to establish the principle of residential development on lands in the northwest portion of the township. And whereas the township of Seguin intends to encourage development of these lands, fulfilling a need in the West Parry Sound area for the provision of housing that is both diverse in unit type and at a price point that is attainable. And whereas the minister's zoning order will expedite the rezoning of lands suitable for development of attainable housing within the township. And whereas the municipality of Whitestone acknowledges the current housing shortage in the West Parry Sound district and its resultant economic impacts, and believes that the timely establishment of new residential development land will assist in addressing this housing shortage and bring associated economic benefits to the West Parry Sound area. Be it therefore resolved that the municipality of Whitestone fully supports the township of Seguin in establishing and encouraging residential housing development in the area. Could I get a mover and seconder for this one, please?
I'll move that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen, seconded by
I'll second.
Councillor Gore Matthews. Thank you. I'll open it up for discussion. I would just, if you read the material that came from Seguin, you will perhaps have identified where this is. It's land that is, I would say, immediately south of the Rona and the Canadian Tire properties in Parry Sound, at the south end of Parry Sound. It's not in Parry Sound, it's in Seguin, of course. There's a block of land in there that has been, it's privately owned. It is zoned commercial currently, which is why it needs to be rezoned. And the township of Seguin is in the middle of their official plan, working on their official plan, and they thought that for them to just go through and rezone it might take a long time. So that's why they're suggesting that they would get an MZO or seek an MZO to do it more quickly. But you can see from the material they provided that their intent is to have a mix of different kinds of housing. Not a whole bunch of $1 million homes, but attainable housing, and some, some semis and duplexes and such things, and some smaller single detached homes and so on. So a mix of housing, and they are proposing to work with developers to get proposals to develop it along those lines. So all they're asking for us is to, I mean, it doesn't affect us directly, clearly, but they're asking us if we would support, give them essentially a letter of support to say, yeah, we recognize that there's a housing shortage and we encourage them to do what they can to address it. So that's the purpose of this motion. Any comments or questions about it?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, since I moved it, I think it's been a long-going process for Secret Township to try to work with those properties in that vicinity, and in cooperation with the town of Prairie Sound. They've had stumbling blocks at different times, and I think they've come to some agreements, some to disagree, but mostly to agree. I think that it certainly is a worthwhile venture with the government of the days pushing for different types of diverse units, both diverse of unit and price point, as is noted there. Price point is a big one. Employers trying to do work in and around the Prairie Sound area and bring in small manufacturing operations, and are just basic labor to perform menial type duties. They have a real problem getting people to come into this area because now they can't afford to live in it. And plus, there just secondly is not the variety and the diversity of accommodation, whether it be rental and or homes to purchase and live in. So anything that can enhance the area moving forward into the future, and thinking of especially the accommodation aspect of it, which they've been looking at and working at for quite a while in Sigmund. I think if we can support them in principle, I go along with that wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Anybody have anything they want to add? If not, does anyone have any objection to us supporting this to this motion of support? Okay, hearing nothing, I will declare it supported. And that brings us to correspondence, which a list of which you have on page, let's say 4 or 5. I'm gonna put back here, page 4. Sorry, it is page 5. There are only 6 items. There is a letter there from MPAC, which was prompted by the Minister of Finance's economic outlook that he presented. And I guess it was the day after our last council meeting, and he answered, he answered it, and MPAC has repeated that, which was the answer to a question that Councillor Lamb had asked at the previous meeting about when are we going to get a reassessment. But anyway, are there any are there any of those that you would like to pull? I'm inclined to think we should perhaps pull item F to just discuss very briefly, but I don't know, are there any others that councillors would like?
Is F the one on Omers?
It is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Thank you.
So any others?
Mr. Mayor,
Sorry, go ahead.
question to you, I guess. A is from the I guess North Bay Prairie Sound Health Unit, and they're continually putting up the flags that they want ongoing assistance and provision for all the COVID related issues that are coming up and continuing forward. And they're basically asking that they get support. I don't know if we have to forward anything in resolution form or otherwise. They're asking for contracts negotiated in, for money to support contracts that will be negotiated into 2022. And they really haven't received any great increases in funding in the last couple of years. So they're sounding alarms. They're just putting it out there, I suppose, for information as much as anything, but I'm not sure how you feel about us sending
Well-
some notice of support.
Okay, well, we'll pull that one to item A, which is North Bay Parish Sound District Health Unit. Request of the Minister of Health. Okay, any others? If not, I'll ask for a motion, mover and seconder for this. Whereas the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone has reviewed the correspondence items listed on page 5 of the November 15th council agenda. Therefore be it resolved that council receive the correspondence items for information with the following extracted for further discussion and action. And I have items A, the North Bay Valley Sound District Health Units request, and F, OMERS. I get a mover and seconder for those, please. Or for that
I'll move
motion.
it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by
I'll second Councillor Woods.
Councillor Woods. All right. So I believe Councillor McEwen's question with respect to the request of the health unit is, should we be sending a letter in support of that to Minister Elliott and all the other folks that typically get circularized when we do such things? Is that what you would like to see us do, Councillor McEwen?
I'm asking the question if other councillors feel that way. I know it's an ongoing it's an ongoing frustration for the health unit, because they've only, I guess, as it says here, they've only received an increase, haven't received one for 5 years. Wages, benefits, general increases in operating costs due to inflation continue. So they're hoping to get some, I guess, some assurance from the ministry that they will have funding expectations, at least for and up into 2022, which isn't far away now, which they don't have. So I don't know. We could just go with the flow, I guess, and let it ride. I'm sure they're getting lots of support for this type of thing.
Anybody else want to comment on this? I'm in favor of supporting it, and I guess I'm somewhat optimistic that there will be some funding. There are pressures, which are not the least the fact that salaries have not, because of salary caps and so on, salaries have not kept up with some of the, what people expect to be paid in healthcare. And so there's both a base funding. I mean, even if there were no COVID-19, which obviously, as you can see, we still have.
Yeah.
There's a base funding, and I think it's referred to in here as a base funding issue, that needs to be maintained and hasn't been. So I don't, I mean, I would have no trouble personally, right, having us simply sending a letter of support saying council discuss this, and we.
Do you need a motion, or we will just go if trust or councilors agree.
Um,
Have admin send a letter.
I'll ask the clerk for clarification, but I think probably what we'll do is when we come out of correspondence, we should probably just pass the quick motion that we
Okay. Sounds good.
support it. We have some blank motions that there's a matters result. So, but does anyone else have an opinion on this? Anybody object to? Well, we can get to that, I guess, when we do the motion. Any other comments? Okay, let's move on just quickly to the OMERS one. The OMERS issue is that the pension fund is not doing very well relative to other funds, according to Coopy's analysis, and they asked for essentially a review, an actuarial review of the fund, and so they got an opinion from an independent people who do this sort of thing, and they said, yeah, they said basically you're right. It's not doing as well as other funds are doing. I hope everybody understands that OMERS is what's referred to as a defined benefit pension plan. So, and they are getting fewer and further between as time goes on, because what happens with a defined benefit plan is that the participants pay into it. And when I say participants, I mean both the employers and the employees pay into it over time. But essentially, when you retire, what you're going to get as a retirement, an annuity, a RIF, right? How much you're going to get a month in your retirement. And the plan, as long as there are people alive who are collecting the pension benefit, and then the plan administrators have to maintain the assets of the plan. So both the employers and the employees end up having to pay into it. If their investments don't do very well, then the rates that are charged to future participants and the rates that the municipalities have to match go up in order to ensure that the folks out there who are collecting the retirement benefits get sort of what they were promised. And that, of course, is in contrast to, like, if an employer said, well, we'll set up some RSPs for you, but you contribute to them and you get whatever you get depending on how well those RSPs perform. So if the investments of the plan don't perform badly, don't perform well, they perform badly, then the retiree effectively loses out, on those investment choices, whereas because they're not guaranteed. So it's always a concern for anybody who pays into a defined benefit pension plan, whether the investments are doing well or not. Sorry for that. If everybody understood that, I apologize for. That's why that's the gist of why they're making this an issue. So again, comments about this. I'm wondering if we shouldn't send a letter. They're asking for this. I wonder if we shouldn't send a letter to OMERS saying you need to have an independent review of why your investments are not doing well, and look into this. That's what's being asked.
Mr. Mayor, it's
Go ahead, Michelle.
sorry, Councillor Lamb. I just wanted to give council a piece of information. Later in the day, I received an email from OMERS, which is in response to this. Now, I haven't had a chance to read the attachment and the details that they've sent, but it seems to be that they want to respond and perhaps counteract some of the things that Coopy said. So council doesn't have all the information, but it was received later in the day, and I just actually noticed it after at the end of the day. So I could share that information with council, which may be helpful if they want to make a decision on, sending something to CUPE in response, or sending something, sorry, to owners. So basically, I'm saying there's more information to consider that really just came in today.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I understand pension plans very well. I'm supportive. I guess this is kind of like meeting with your financial person, and when they tell you they've made less money than everyone else, which they don't tell you. They tell you what a great market it is, and how they've tried their best. But anyway, these are big, huge pension plans, of course, and OMERS isn't at all in terms of, they're not in anywhere close to an insolvent situation. But you're right, and they're right, CUPE's right, that, if you slide behind in terms of your performance, at some point, you may have to pay the piper. So I think we should be supportive of something. I'd be interested in what that additional information is. I don't see this as something that, there's a set line to do it tonight. I don't know whether, I think the clerk is suggesting maybe we look at that information and maybe deal with it maybe at the next meeting or something. Am I understanding that right? But I'd like to have all the information. But I'm certainly supportive of doing something. Let's just say that. Thank you.
So is there a suggestion? I mean, I'm not surprised by the way that Homer says has responded to this, because they, it's a criticism of the plan management, I suppose, and the investment management strategy and that sort of thing. So,
Well, Mr. Mayor, my question was exactly as come up here, and what is the other side of the story here? It's a heck of a big player. We're not going to make much of a dent in it personally, but
well, would you like to defer for more information?
I suggest we defer.
CIO's suggestion. Okay. Is anybody not okay with that? Can we circularize whatever they responded to and
That's fine.
pick it up in another meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've had our discussion. I should have asked if that motion to discuss these, by the way, was, I should have asked if there's any objection to it. I don't have it noted here as carried. So is anyone objecting to how we dealt with the correspondence? And if not, for matters arising from correspondence, and that would be 15A. So 15A. Would someone like to move that we communicate our support for the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit's letter to the Minister of Health and the others on the distribution list? Would someone like to move that?
I would move that, Councilor McEwen.
Thank you, Councilor McEwen. Is there a seconder?
I'll second it, Councilor Lamb.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All right. Well, all right. So, is there any objection to this motion? All right. So we've done with those. That brings us to counselor items. Who has a counselor item? Deathly silence. Okay, well, I have a very quick counselor item. Then it started as sort of a general item of interest to let you know that some of us who have specific roles in emergency management in the municipality participated in a training session last Tuesday, the 10th. It was one in a couple of hours in the morning, a couple of the hours in the afternoon with a mock exercise involved. It is a requirement under the EMS protocols, the EMS rules. And anyway, it was effective. The mock simulation was of a derailment close to the municipality that required evacuation, and that was, the rules were that it was in proximity to locations that we would normally use to evacuate people and so on. So it's one of those things where the group broke out into various groups to discuss both by municipality and by role in terms of how they would discuss those things. And it's just a way of sort of keeping people up to date on what things have to be done and who has to do them and that sort of thing. It's ironic, but just on a personal note, and there is no, I want to say I'm not suggesting for a second that there's any connection between the two, but for some reason or other, when as it got towards the end of the day, I had a bit of an episode where I got dizzy and vertigo and that kind of thing, and so I ended up calling our fire and rescue. Well, I didn't call them, but my family did, and Bob Whitman and his team came out, and subsequently the Parry Sound EMS folks came out, and I even got to ride in a Westmoreland to Parry Sound Hospital. But anyway, and it wasn't as much fun as you might think, because I was feeling pretty crappy after having sort of flaked out and lost my balance and feeling nauseated and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it dissipated very quickly. They didn't find anything wrong with me, and later on around midnight, they sent me home. So just for those of you who may have heard about this and wondering, am I okay? Yes, I am. And I'm very grateful to Bob and to his crew, and I sent them a note to this effect saying thank you for looking after me so well. They came very promptly. They were very confident about that. And I know you've heard these. We've heard these stories from other folks before about how great our fire and rescue is, but as I said to somebody, it's encouraging that we have folks who are ready to respond on short notice and know what they're doing, and it certainly gave me a feeling of being in good hands. So and I was well looked after. Fortunately, the hospital wasn't too busy, but I was very well looked after by the people there, and as I say, they did not find any cause for this or anything wrong. There's a theory that it might be somehow a delayed reaction from being stung by one of my honeybees, but which I'm still going to investigate. But other than that, it came and went. So anyway, my thanks to the folks involved. So that's my counselor item. Are there any others?
Mr. Mayor, I noticed in Perry Sound, if I could, on the way in, they have a speed reading sign, I guess it is, reads your speed as you're driving along. It's quite a portable unit. It just sits on a hydro pole with I guess it's just powered by sun. Anyway, I heard they were coming, and I see that they've got a couple up now, and that they can move them around from location to location. So I think as time goes on, maybe heading into next summer's busy season and such, we could be considering such units. Maybe we want to get some information on them from the town or from someone for budgeting purposes going into 2022. So just a comment on that. They look quite attractive. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, for raising that matter. I almost mentioned it when Mayor Hopkins was here earlier. We had, and I thought I had mentioned this at a previous meeting, so I hope I'm not wearing you out with the details, but I had a conversation with the staff sergeant, who's the detachment commander in Perry Sound, and it was in response to some ratepayers who came to us and said, people are speeding through Dunchurch. And I said to Jeremy McDonald, the detachment commander, well, what can you do to help us about that? And he said, well, it would really help if we knew when they were doing it and how fast they're going and that sort of thing, because they have, limited traffic enforcement resources, and they'd like to apply them to where and when they think the problems are. So he suggested that we should use those signs, and he pointed out to us that the township of McKellar had already purchased a couple of them and was in the process of getting permission from MTO to put them out, because you do need, and if it's on the city, on your own roads or on the township or whatever, you can do it. But if it's on a highway, a provincial highway, then the MTO has to, I guess, give consent. So our staff have been in contact with the director of public works in McKellar, and the suggestion was that we might be able to borrow their signs and try to do this. It probably wouldn't be until next spring, but the bottom line is they're definitely looking into it. Speaking of things that ratepayers were asking us about, sorry to go from one item to another, but some of you may have heard that someone ran into the the community mailboxes that are located on Whitestone Lake Road just by Highway 520 and knocked them over onto their back. And I understand from Dave Creaser that some of them were actually damaged, but people were calling the municipality saying, and maybe you heard calls from some people saying, well, what's the municipality going to do about this? And of course, we had to tell them that this is Canada Post's matter, but our staff did get in touch with Canada Post to make sure they knew about it, and they did. And they're presumably have this, and I think they've righted the mailboxes in question, and we'll do whatever is necessary. If some of them are damaged, they'll fix them or whatever. I don't know, but they have the matter in hand. So if you hear about that or are asked about that, you would know. Anyway, I'm for sure this time out of council items. Any others? No? All right. Questions from the public? Are there any questions from the public? Are there any members?
Yeah, hello.
Oh, I see Ed Can is here. Is that you speaking?
No, Mr. Mayor, it was Scott Nash. I have
it's
a
Scott.
couple quick questions if
Go ahead.
I'm able to. I guess my first one is more of just a quick little comment regarding the 13.1, the private parking. And hopefully, if the town wants to allow private parking on public land, that it will never be private. Hopefully it would always be accessible to all. I don't think anybody would want public land used for private parking only for the people who own the land. But at the same time, I think it would be great that the municipality improves boat launches and parking facilities for many lakes around the area. That's really just a comment. And then the other one was, I'm glad I was on the call today because I heard a question regarding a payment item, and I think it was item 36283 for Weir Fowles, and I'm probably 99.9% sure, and I guess I can answer it as it couldn't be answered tonight, that the $5,200 probably has to do with our severance with Weir Fowles, and I know the CAO has been in direct contact, as you have, with the lawyer for Weir Fowles, and hopefully that can be put to an end soon, as I know we haven't heard anything back since the beginning of October on it, just as an update to other councillors that may not be aware of what that $5,200 was for. And that's my comment.
Okay, well, thank you, Scott. I was pretty sure when I saw the name of the firm, I was pretty sure I knew it was Chris Zekas, but it was involved, but I don't know. Sometimes lawyers are slow getting their invoices in, and I don't know what that particular one is for, or we do have to rely on our CAO to answer the question to council, but it's you could be right. It could be right. It could be in connection with that. With that
I'm only guessing
matter because he was certainly involved in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only guessing since you guys involved the lawyers again about 3 or 4 months ago, right? So that's why I'm only guessing that. And I thought everybody would have probably had a good idea what it was for. So I'm kind of surprised. So I thought it should be answered so that all the councillors are aware. And to be honest, we'd just like this to be over with, and are waiting for the paperwork yet again. So thank you. And
Okay, all right.
I
I thought it was, to be honest, I thought it was over, but anyway, we can't get into it now. So I'll leave it. I'll leave it. I'll leave the matter to the CAO to respond. Councillors about it. Are there any other questions from the public? All right. If that's the case, we are ready for our confirming bylaw. Mover and seconder, please.
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Seconded by.
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm just reading the motions. Maybe I've missed something, but in the motions, it says that bylaw 51-2021, the confirmatory bylaw. Is that a new way of saying the confirming bylaw?
Okay. No, it's perhaps I have been lax in some other meetings in not actually reading the motion. That, to the best of my knowledge, that's the way it already reads. But each meeting has a confirmatory bylaw, and the purpose of the confirmatory bylaw is to regularize anything that was decided for which there was not a bylaw. So as a case in point.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just, I never noticed before that it's called the confirmatory bylaw. I thought it was the bylaw, the confirming bylaw.
Well, I'm sorry, maybe the official name of it is the confirmatory bylaw, and sometimes we call it some people call it the confirming bylaw. But every meeting, my point is, every meeting it has a different number because it relates only to one meeting.
No, I wasn't questioning the number. I was just commenting on confirmatory. In all my years, I haven't seen that, but maybe I haven't paid much attention to the confirming bylaw, I guess. Anyway, okay, fine.
That's the correct name. That is, strictly speaking, the correct name of it. Yeah.
Okay.
So is there any objection to passing it? If not, then we'll declare it. And finally, a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll move, Councillor Woods.
I'll second, Councillor McEwen.
At 8:47 PM, moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor McEwen. Now therefore be it resolved that the meeting be adjourned at 8:47 PM until the next scheduled regular meeting of Monday, December 6th, 2021 at, and it is 2 PM. Am I correct, Madam CAO?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to ask you to correct that.
At 2 PM.
And could I suggest that the next scheduled special council meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's right. The next, just for those of you who are keeping track of these things, thank you very much. It is the next special council meeting. It's the one to consider the asset management plan. And our next regular meeting is Monday, December the 13th. There is no meeting on the, what would it be, the 1st of December or?
The 6th.
Oh,
It
no,
would-
there is one. I'm sorry, there's that special one, too, but there's no, I guess what I'm saying is there's no, normally if we would have 2 meetings in a month, but we decided to have one in December this year on the 13th. So we have the special meeting on the 6th, then we have a regular meeting on the 13th. If I haven't confused you enough by now. Anyway, anybody opposed to adjourning? Hearing none. I thank you all for your patience and perseverance. Have a good evening, and we'll talk to you again on the 6th.
Good evening.
Good night.
Night, take care.
All right, everyone.